Let me. Hold on.
Bro, I've had the fucking Mufasa. I've always wanted a brother stuck in my head for like a week now. It's pissing me off.
Well, maybe you
What did you
shouldn't
say about
have.
my brother?
Maybe you shouldn't have watched the fucking movie.
Ugh. I always
That's your
wanted a
own fault,
brother. What did you say about my brother?
Brenda. Okay, I need to put this on a hot pan before you start because it's gonna be loud as fuck and I won't be able to hear you.
Okay.
So give me a second because I have to fucking get it out of its cartridge.
Okay.
Cartridge, I say. Plastic bag. Hi, Wester. What are you doing, my little kitty?
I'm gonna send art from last chapter that I forgot to send.
Oh shit.
It's of all them eating the chastity
Aw.
meatballs.
Oh, right. Forgot about those fucking meatballs. That's like insane. He's like a danger to society. Oh my god. Why the fuck? This shit is locked in here.
I always wanted a brother. What did you say about my
My
brother?
my light in my kitchen has been flickering.
Nosferatu?
Um, no, Sferat, yeah. And it's been great.
Nice.
It's been, oh my god, get out of the container.
Dude, The Substance will return to theaters on January 17th.
I heard.
We should
I
watch
haven't
The
seen it.
Substance. We gotta watch it
We
together.
should.
I haven't seen it either,
I,
but it looks
okay, I
crazy.
was okay. It does look crazy. Oh my
Wade
god,
would
get
probably
this.
want to watch that with us. I don't think
Yeah.
Sunny. I don't think Sunny would watch that. Sunny would
No, it's
throw up.
too. Yeah. Now you've got that fucking song in my head, dude.
What did you say about my brother?
Beep, 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 beep.
Dude, Jerma live Thursday. I wish you would play Balatro. You don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm uncultured. I'm uncultured. Ever since I gained a 9 to 5, I've been slowly becoming less cultured.
Yeah, no, duh. I was thinking about that. Like, I'm dreading that part. Because
Yeah.
I always want to do
Um
more than I can do whenever I have a job.
that's
And I would.
that's literally how I feel every
I
day.
haven't had a job since I met you.
That's
You're gonna
crazy.
you're gonna miss me, bro.
I will, 100%. I'm like,
Sunny knows what it's like to wait till 6 p.m. for me.
yeah, well, Sunny wakes up at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I guess it's not that bad because if I'm working that time,
Yeah, it depends on what job
I'll
I
just
get.
have to, yeah. But, I guess we'll see.
Dude,
I,
see, he looks like Mads Mikkelsen. I'm not crazy.
oh, yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, oh, you're being,
I'm
what's
not
the,
crazy.
this one, shower. I guess you're not crazy. Um,
Dude, second season of Castlevania Nocturne with Alucard.
dude.
Come on up, Scout. Come on. Good girl. You lie down.
Can you share my meat?
No.
Okay, cool. You can start then.
You're just muffled as hell, so I can't really hear you.
It's okay.
It's like your noise gate or something. It's crazy. You're like eating
It's
cotton.
well, these earbuds are great, but mostly just for music.
Alright. Hold on. Would love to close my door, but my dog just came in.
Hey.
Alright, where the fuck?
My brother.
I always wanted a brother. What did you say about my brother? Okay, it's the one where they're making out. That's right. Alright, I'm closing my door, Scout. Sorry. Oh my god. This dog. Hold on. Okay, what?
I have no working stove fan. Every time I cook, I gotta fucking open the window. You know, it's light years away.
You're gonna get fucking oil everywhere. Or
What are you
grease.
talking about?
I don't know. I don't know what a stove fan does. Do you remember what happened last time?
A little bit reminds me.
I love when your hair gets long and you do this stupid little ponytail.
There's just too much.
Your little man
paint on
bun.
my eyes. Yeah.
So they ate meatballs and Chuan Yuzhen passed out and Ling Wen is like alone with the robe or something, or was alone with the robe. And then these monks showed up, and this man, the fanciest looking monk, showed up, and he's like, "We're here to get this ghost that you obviously have inside your house, because Chi Rong sicked them on
Right.
Hua Cheng." And so this guy,
Right.
Heaven's Eye, is like, "I can see evil Chi, and I see it on you." And then Shilian's like, "Where is it on me?" And he's like, "Your lips."
So fruity.
Alright. Chapter 72. My Poochie Shrine Will Collapse Supremely, Part 1.
My Pookie Shrine.
That's right! It's your lips! Heaven's Eye proclaimed with complete certainty, but the monks and cultivators were perplexed. Why his lips? How can ghost chi only be on the lips? Is it a lip balm spirit? Shilian's hands unconsciously flew over his mouth. Hua Cheng had stained him with his scent when they embraced and kissed the night away at Thousand Lights Temple. Shilian never could have imagined that it hadn't yet faded. Heaven's Eye pointed at him. Well, well, well. Do you all see? He knows his guilt. Shilian hastily dropped his hands. He forced down the urge to turn and see what expression Hua Cheng wore after hearing that accusation, even though his face was currently covered in bandages, and Shilian wouldn't have been able to tell. My fellow Dao friend, you're mistaken, he explained amiably. I live a humble life, so each household item is used for many purposes. Take this jar, for example. He raised the clay jar in his hand and continued with earnest conviction. Although I sometimes use this to catch ghosts, I normally use it to pickle vegetables. The pickles from this jar have a unique flavor, and once you eat one, you'll naturally... If you don't believe me, you can try it yourself. Technically, this explanation could make some sense. The monks and cultivators were still dubious, but with all the villagers but all the villagers covered their mouths as well. Huh? Zhi Daozhang, have all those pickles you've given us been pickled like that? Won't our mouths be full of ghost chi too? When the villagers offered him fresh fruits and vegetables, Shi Lian would usually return the favor by giving them some of his pickled vegetables. He quickly waved his hand. Don't worry, I used different jars to make the pickles for everyone else. Are you mental? Heaven's Eye said angrily. Aren't you afraid eating stuff like that will take years off your life? Enough talk. There's still someone hidden in your shrine. And not just one. Move aside. Afraid that the village chief would stop him again, he charged forward before he even finished speaking. Seeing the situation change so quickly, Shi Lian hurriedly retreated into the house. He pulled the unconscious Xuan Yizhen upright, madly shook his collar, and shouted into his ear. Qi-Ying, listen! I'm going to feed you more incorruptible chastity meatballs! Xuan Yizhen's eyes shot open the moment he heard this. Heaven's Eye had only just barged into the shrine when he immediately leapt back outside, shrieking and covering his forehead. Don't anyone go in, there's an ambush! The crowd of monks and cultivators didn't dare move rashly, and they gathered around to shield him. Heaven's Eye, Shang, what did you see? I didn't see anything. There was an immense, blinding white light, Heaven's Eye said. Oh my gosh, Daoshang, this is bad. Your Heaven's Eye is smoking. Heaven's Eye felt his forehead, and sure enough, that red mark on his forehead had turned black. It was emitting a soft line of white smoke like a blown-out candle. What? He exclaimed as the color drained from his face. Ling Wen lazily put down her half-eaten steamed bun. It's so noisy outside. What's going on? Heaven's Eye, Shang, look, a monk said. There are 2 children and a woman inside that shrine as well as that cultivator. Of those 4, which one is him? Heaven's Eye vigorously rubbed his forehead, but he couldn't reopen his eye no matter how hard he tried. The ball of white light had been Xuan Yizhen's spiritual aura. When a heavenly official sensed they were about to face grave danger, or that their life would be threatened, that spiritual aura that shielded their body would expand explosively. It was this flash of protective light that Shi Lian had used to blind the cultivator Heaven's Eye. It wasn't like Shi Lian had ruined 10 years of his cultivation, though. He just wouldn't be able to use his third eye for a few days. Shi Lian picked up the pot holding the meatballs. Xuan Yizhen was fully conscious now, and he gripped Shi Lian's hand. I won't eat it, he croaked. Shi Lian reversed the hold and held his hand reassuringly. Don't worry, these aren't for you. The band of masters surrounding Puqi Shrine shared looks with each other, then shouted and rushed forward in near unison. However, they were bounced away by an invisible barrier before Shi Lian could meet them. A deep voice sounded from the skies above. You foul old monks and cultivators are pesky as flies, and now you've become addicted to harassment? You dare pursue me all the way here? You're asking for death. Hua, Hua, Hua. Heaven's Eye stuttered Hua several times, but in the end he still succumbed to Hua Cheng's might and didn't dare call him by his full name. Instead he stammered, Hua Cheng's, stop bluffing. We know you've sealed away your powers to avoid the effects of Mount Tonglu's imminent opening. There's no way you're your usual insolent self. Surrender yourself. The more he spoke, the less strength there was in his words. Shi Lian could tell that Hua Cheng was really angry now, and he rushed back inside to gather him into his arms. Don't say any more, he whispered. Stop wasting your powers. Conserve your strength. Leave everything to me. Hua Cheng's body was tense at first, but he seemed to slowly calm down after being picked up. All right, he replied in a low voice. As he held him, Shi Lian could sense that Hua Cheng's age had regressed again. He was now probably no more than 12 or 13. Shi Lian couldn't help but be worried. With one arm holding Hua Cheng and the other clutching Fangxin, he walked out. Did none of you consider that you were deceived by the green ghost Qi Rong? Unexpectedly, the monks and cultivators looked confused at this. Green ghost Qi Rong? What did he lie about? Why would he deceive us? Heaven's Eye asked. Shi Lian frowned slightly. Wasn't he the one who told you to come here? Heaven's Eye clicked his tongue. Who do you think we are? You think we'd need a raft to tip us off? Why would we float on the same boat as him? It wasn't Qi Rong? Then how did the information leak? Before Shi Lian could consider it further, the monks and cultivators launched their attacks. Shilian blocked strikes from multiple swords and several staves with a single swing of Fang Xin. Amitabha Buddha, why must our Tao friend protect this creature of evil? A monk questioned. Shilian wouldn't back down an inch. Master, it's not nice to ambush people when they're down, no matter who they are. He's a ghost, not a person. Don't cling to outdated morals, you immature young'un, Heaven's Eye shouted. Countless spiritual staves and treasured swords came attacking at once. If Shilian unsheathed Fang Xin, he might hurt one of the humans present. Morally speaking, mortals could hit heavenly officials, but heavenly officials could not hit mortals. Heavenly officials must be tolerant, generous, compassionate, and caring towards mortals, and never squabble with them. Merits would be deducted if one dared to hit them. Shilian wasn't as unrestrained as Xuan Yizhen, nor was he as wealthy. He didn't have many merits in the first place, so he'd end up in the negatives if he incurred a fine. Thus, he put away his sword and shouted, Roye, come! Qiying, watch Ling Wen. Scout, enough. Roye was always aggrieved when it had to bind men, but it had changed face when asked to bind a woman. Shilian had to call for it a couple times before it reluctantly peeled itself from Ling Wen's wrists. Hold on, I gotta get Scout. Oh, this dog. Would you stop? Stop. I want my door closed. Can she come down? Okay. Where were we?
He's fighting.
Yeah, hold on. Roya was always aggrieved when it had to bind men, but it changed face when Shilian had to call for it a couple times. Oh, am I plugged in? Yeah. Shilian had to call for it a couple times before it reluctantly peeled itself from Ling Wen's wrists. In the blink of an eye, a white flash whipped the hands of every monk and cultivator in the mob, loosening their grips on their spiritual weapons. Bewildered, they all wondered, what kind of spiritual weapon is that? Was it a spiritual weapon? It looked like a white silk band that someone would use to hang themselves. It reeks of evil. What do you know? This brat actually has a couple moves. Taking advantage of Shilian fending off the mob of masters, Ling Wen shook her head, dusted off her sleeves, and rose to her feet. Thank you for your warm hospitality, Your Highness. I will take my leave now. Shilian was slightly taken aback. Ling Wen, the day's not over yet. Where are you going? Are you going to break your vow? That's correct. I am indeed going to break my vow, Ling Wen said. Her voice was unapologetic, like she was stating that she was about to slay evil by heaven's will. Shilian was struck speechless by it. Moments later, he said, It wasn't Shirong who leaked the information. It was you. Ling Wen smiled. I may not be a martial god, and I was bound by Roye, but one can accomplish much with just the communication array. He knew it, but how did Ling Wen know that the bandage boy was Hua Cheng? She barely spoke to him, and barely even saw him. Shilian hadn't figured it out as fast as she did. Shilian still couldn't get away from the fight, and he saw that she was about to take her stately leave. Qiying, don't let her escape, he shouted. Although he had eaten an incorruptible chastity meatball not long ago, Xuan Yizhen's strength was returning, and he could now pull himself upright. And Ling Wen was a weak, powerless civil god. Xuan Yizhen could stop her without even lifting a finger. Hearing Xuan Yizhen acknowledge, okay, from afar, Shilian relaxed and went back to fighting the crowd. A moment later, there was a sudden rumble, and a figure was blown high into the air, straight through the roof of Puqi's shrine. Aghast, Shilian shouted towards the shrine, Qiying, don't fight like that! It was nothing for martial gods to get tossed around. All martial gods grew up getting beaten. But Ling Wen was a female heavenly official, and a civil god at that. She'd be pulverized if Xuan Yizhen fought so ruthlessly. A person strolled out of the shrine's front door. Baijing, don't fight like that, she chided leisurely. The cool voice obviously belonged to Ling Wen. But the moment she walked out, Shilian thought he saw a fleeting illusion. Like the one who came out wasn't Ling Wen, but an extremely tall young man with an aura of vengeance that roared to the heavens. When Shilian squinted, it was still the lone figure of Ling Wen. Ling Wen was a civil god, that was certain. Even if she had tried to hide her strength in the past, she wouldn't have been able to deceive Shilian. How did she manage to blow Xuan Yizhen into the sky? Guga, be careful. She put on the robe, Hua Cheng darkly warned. So that was it. To the untrained eye, it looked like Ling Wen was still clad in black, but in reality a simmering dark aura covered her. It was this aura that made it seem like she had changed into a completely different person. Killing intent ran wild in the air, forming a peculiar contrast with the calm expression on her fair face. Shilian tried testing the waters by lunging at her with his sword, but Ling Wen deflected the blow with a wave of her sleeve. Xuan Yizhen came plunging down just in time to witness this scene. As he crashed hard into the ground, his eyes lit up in an instant. Beautiful! Shilian's eyes lit up too, and he also exclaimed, Beautiful! Ling Wen's move just now was truly a beautiful one. Or rather, it would be said that the Brocade Immortal's move was beautiful. Wow, dinner. It had used its powers to help Ling Wen block the attack. Let me drink. When the others wore the Brocade Immortal, they either lost their minds or were sucked dry of blood. But when Ling Wen wore it, there was no weapon that could pierce its defense, and she could attack with such strength that even the martial god of the West was blown away. Who would have thought that it would still allow her to use its powers after she had chopped off its head and limbs? Now, not only were the villagers of Puchi shocked, even the band of monks and cultivators were stupefied. What do you mean, beautiful? Heaven's Eye exclaimed. Is it so good to be hit? Is there anyone normal inside that shrine? I think not a single soul in there is human. Xuan Yizhen was itching to spar, and he leapt to his feet to attack once more. I said, don't linger here, Ling Wen hissed. Those words were directed at the Brocade Immortal, but her body wouldn't listen to her. Her elbow blocked Xuan Yizhen's punch, which led into an all-out brawl. Fighting and parrying and fighting, the blows of fists and palms rattled the old walls of Puchi Shrine, and it shook like it was ready to collapse. As expected, the Brocade Immortal, one with the potential to ascend, even Xuan Yizhen was falling behind. Shilian couldn't help but cry out to them, excuse me, can you both fight further away? Further away, please. But just as he spoke, the monks and cultivators surrounded him again. 40 or 50 blades, swords, hammers, and staves came crashing forward, and Shilian's face dropped as he raised his hands. Wait, don't, no! Puchi Shrine had remained standing even as it suffered ceaseless abuse over the past few months. But now, punctuated by that tragic wail, it finally completely collapsed. Shilian was dumbfounded, and bleak desolation filled his heart. I just knew none of my houses would ever last 6 months. Now I really need to beg for donations for repairs. Guga, don't be sad. It's just a house. There are plenty of others around, Hua Cheng consoled him. Shilian tried to stay strong, but then Heaven's Eye came stumbling over, one hand covering his forehead and the other pointing at him. You, youngin', you've got nothing but petty tricks. You dare ruin my cultivation? Who's your Shifu? What generation do you belong to? Which temple are you registered under? What god do you worship? Shilian whirled around, and a biting chill flashed over his face. He straightened and replied with intense and furious dignity. You ask who I am? Listen well. I am His Eminent Highness the Crown Prince. Bow down before me, you righteous, unruly horde. His voice boomed like a bolt from the blue. There were actually a few who dropped to their knees and didn't snap out of it until their companions pulled them up. What are you doing? Are you actually kneeling? That's weird. I did it before I realized. Shilian continued in a sharp tone. I am over 800 years old, older than all of you combined. I have crossed more bridges than the roads you have walked. I possess shrines and temples across this land. My worship is spread to the 4 seas. If you do not know my name, it is because you are uneducated and ignorant of the world. I do not worship gods. I am God. This speech was incredibly shameless, yet it was spoken with an incomparably impressive presence. The mob was astonished and stood there silent and slack-jawed. Huh? Julien had made up all that nonsense because he was waiting for this very opportunity. He flung forth the pot in his hands, and the little white meatballs shot through the air and scattered in all directions like iron pellets. Without a single miss, each and every one landed in the open mouth of one of the shocked monks and cultivators. Julien wiped away his sweat. "Will everyone please forget everything I just said? I'm actually only a scrapped collector." The face of everyone who ate a meatball drained of all color. "Huh? We've been had!" A few who were quicker on their feet had stopped the incoming meatballs with their swords, but when they peeked around to inspect, those meatballs were still spinning rapidly on their blades and creating sparks from friction. The mob was terrified. What is this hidden weapon? Incomparably solid with a peculiar shine. Could this be the legendary? "That's right," Julien declared. "They're the legendary incorruptible chastity pellets. They are extremely poisonous, and they will explode in your stomach, so if you don't drink 81 cups of plain water within a day to flush away the toxin." Although none of them had ever heard of such a thing before, the mob grew even more panicked. "Hey, is it really that poisonous?" "Either way, we gotta go drink water. The antidote is just water. Let's get the hell out of here. Go find water." In an instant, a large portion of the crowd had fallen for the trick and fled. On the other side of the temple grounds, Ling Wen was fighting with increasing aggression. She picked up Xuan Yizhen in a stranglehold. But despite having the obvious upper hand, Ling Wen didn't look pleased at all. "Bai Jing, are you trying to kill him?" she barked in a low voice. "There's no need to fight anymore. Let's just go." Fortunately, Julien had one meatball remaining. Just as Ling Wen said the word go, he lobbed a meatball into her mouth with his swift hands. The light in Ling Wen's eyes was extinguished in an instant, like it had been snuffed out by the thing she had swallowed. The black aura surrounding her body also lightened a shade. With an expression like she was forcing back the urge to vomit, she glared at Julien, her lips quivering soundlessly. After enduring for as long as she could, she threw Xuan Yizhen to the ground and left the scene with her hand supporting her temple. Xuan Yizhen leapt to his feet to chase after her. Julien wanted to follow, but the mob of monks and cultivators blocked his way. "Everyone, hang on! More reinforcements are on the way," they shouted. More? He couldn't stay in Puchi village any longer. It would be best if he left first and thought later. Xuan Yizhen was nowhere to be found. His pursuit of Ling Wen had already carried him far away. Julien cradled Hua Cheng in his arms. "Hold on tight to me." He bounced off from his toes into a sprint, easily outpacing the mob in an instant. Hua Cheng followed his instructions and embraced him tightly. For some reason, this felt familiar to Julien, but he had no time to reminisce about the past. This affair needed to be reported to the Heavenly Court as soon as possible. Without thinking, he sent a message to the private communication array, as he always did. "Ling Wen, something's happened. I know," Ling Wen said. "So sorry to bother you," Julien replied. An instant later, Ling Wen cut their communication first. Julien was also speechless. He had always communicated directly with Ling Wen in the past, but now Ling Wen herself was the problem. His brain hadn't caught up, and he'd actually reported the incident to her. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. As he dashed away with Hua Cheng in his arms, Julien entered the public communication array to frantically inform the others of the situation at hand. "Everyone, please be alert. Please alert the whole court. Ling Wen ran off wearing the brocade immortal." And that's the end of the book.
I love how he uses his terrible cooking
He
skills
used his terrible cooking to fucking...
as a weapon.
Should I do another while you're eating?
No. I'm almost done.
You hate me.
I feel like the zucchini is a little too much. I should have done less.
The what?
The zucchini. It's a little too much.
Zucchini.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read one more.
Okay.
Please. It's short. It's not that long. Besides, this is part 2. My Puchi Shrine will collapse supremely part 2. No one in the spiritual communication array paid any attention to Julien's urgent announcement. The chatter in the general array was deafening. It seemed something huge had happened. "Your Highness, did you say something?" Feng Xin shouted to him. "It's It's really chaotic in here right now. Shilian raised his voice to reply. Function! I said Ling Wen is the original creator of the Brocade Immortal. She ran away wearing it. Watch out for her. What? Function shouted. That's what happened? Shilian was about to expand on the details when the noise in his ear abruptly stopped and nothing more could be heard. Confused, he tried calling again. Everyone? Is everyone still there? He attempted to reconnect a few times, but still no one answered. It's no use, Hua Cheng spoke up. Ling Wen created the upper court's spiritual communication array, and she must have just destroyed it. It needs to be rebuilt entirely. What should we do then? If he wasn't contacting Ling Wen or the Windmaster directly, he primarily communicated with the upper court through the general spiritual communication array. He didn't know the verbal passwords of any other heavenly officials. Now that the general communication array was destroyed, and he could no longer depend on Ling Wen or the Windmaster, what should he do? Hua Cheng seemed to sense his concerns. Don't worry. Didn't Gaga already make the key issue clear? Now that all the heavenly officials of the upper court are idiots, and Jun Wu is present in the heavens right now. Not all of the heavenly officials in the upper court are idiots, and Jun Wu is present in the heaven right now. As long as you've done your due diligence in reporting, it'll be fine. Shilian had been thinking the same thing, and he nodded in agreement as he brought his mad dash to a stop. They had already crossed several mountaintops and left the pursuing religious masters far behind, though it seemed like they wouldn't be able to catch up with the Brocade Immortal and Xuan Yizhen. If Gaga still wants to investigate the Brocade Immortal, you'll have to hurry, Hua Cheng added. However, Shilian shook his head. That was before. Now that Qi Ying is chasing Ling Wen, we've got more important matters on our hands. Sun Long, he stared at Hua Cheng in his arms, his gaze intent. Your form seems to have changed again. When Hua Cheng was disguised as Lang Ying earlier, he had the appearance of a 15 or 16-year-old boy, and it wasn't easy for Shilian to carry him. Even if he could, it wouldn't look good. But Hua Cheng seemed to have shrunk, and he now looked to be almost 11 or 12. Shilian could carry him with one arm, or even have him perch on his shoulder. However, Hua Cheng's air of composed ease had never wavered. No need to worry, Gaga. It's a non-issue. The mountain will open its gates soon. Changing form is only a temporary tactic, and my old self will return after this situation is over. He unwrapped the bandages on his head as he spoke. A pair of deep black eyes gazed at Shilian from that snow-white face. The shadow of that handsome young man was still there upon his brow. Although he wore the face of a child, he still had that familiar, laid-back, unhurried air and expression. Shilian watched him in a daze, not speaking a word. Hua Cheng frowned slightly. Your Highness, you... Suddenly, Shilian's free hand reached out and pinched Hua Cheng's cheek. Hua Cheng's eyes widened as his face changed shape from the entirely unexpected squishing. Gaga! Shilian laughed. Sorry, San Long, but you're too cute. I can't help myself. Hua Cheng was speechless. Shilian continued to tenderly squish him. Then, San Long, are you going to keep changing? He asked gently. Are you going to turn into a child of 5 or 6? Or even better, a little baby? Hearing the hope in his voice, Hua Cheng could only reply helplessly, I'm afraid I will have to disappoint Gaga. Shilian dropped his hand and grinned. Nonsense. San Long has never disappointed me. I'm really happy to have this chance to protect you. However, Hua Cheng muttered glumly, I'm not happy. Why is that? Shilian asked. Hua Cheng's tone turned cold. I hate looking like this. Shilian could actually detect a trace of loathing in his voice and was slightly taken aback. Hua Cheng lowered his head. I don't want you to see me in such a useless form, much less be forced to protect me. His emotions seemed unsettled. Perhaps it was because his physical age had regressed. Shilian felt his heart stir, and he quickly gathered the boy into his arms and gently patted his back. By that logic, I might as well just die. You've seen me in messes so many times, he chuckled. Besides, it's not like you're actually useless right now. You're just temporarily conserving your strength, that's all. Hua Cheng buried his face in his shoulder. It's not the same, he grumbled, voice muffled. Your Highness, I have to be the strongest. I have to become stronger than anyone else. Only then can I... Although his voice was young and tender at the moment, a trace of fatigue lingered in his tone. You've always been the strongest, but you don't need to be strong every waking moment of every day, Shilian soothed him. Just think of this as giving me some face. Let me protect you this once. Please, okay? It was a long time before Hua Cheng lifted his head. He placed his hands on Shilian's shoulders and gazed at him. Your Highness, wait for me. All right, I'll wait for you, Shilian promised. Hua Cheng vowed to him, very seriously, Give me a little time. I'll be back very soon. Shilian smiled. No rush. Go at your own pace. The next day, the two came to a small town. Shilian was holding Hua Cheng's hand, and the two chatted leisurely as they strolled along the streets together. Ghost kings of earlier generations are affected by Mount Tonglu's opening tremors. Does that also apply to Blackwater? Shilian asked. Hua Cheng stood with one arm folded behind his back and held Shilian's hand with the other. Yes, he replied, but our situations are different, as are our training methods. Naturally, our ways of responding to the stimulation are different as well. For example, Shilian prompted him, how does he respond to the aggravation? Hibernation, probably, Hua Cheng replied. A phrase written in large letters surfaced in Shilian's mind. Eat when hungry, sleep when full. When Blackwater was mortal, he suffered the torment of jail. With only one meal every 3 days, he had to swallow it down even if he was given swill, Hua Cheng continued. Hunger ruined his stomach. Sometimes he'll feed non-stop. Sometimes he'll refuse to eat anything at all. No wonder he was always so impressive when it came to swallowing things, Shilian mused. Given Hushwen's situation, he could have What?
I said that's an insane thing to say.
Yeah. Given Hushwen's situation, he could have focused on devouring hungry ghosts. He possessed the same attribute, so they should have better suited his palate. However, of the 500-some ghosts devoured by Blackwater Demon Shuen, the majority were water ghosts. He must have chosen them because he remembered the face of Shi Wudu and would intentionally pick such meals to break his water magic. At the end of these feeding frenzies, he would need to slumber and digest. Indeed, Hua Cheng said. I might as well mention that Shi Rong was trying to imitate Hushwen by feasting on human flesh. Shilian was briefly speechless. How could anyone consider eating humans the same as eating ghosts? After pondering for a moment, he asked, The forest of upside-down corpses. Was he trying to imitate you with that? Correct, Hua Cheng replied. He wanted to copy my blood rain aesthetic, but he didn't know how to do it, so he just crudely strung up rows of dead bodies. Today, Shilian finally understood why no one knew what to say whenever Qirong was mentioned. He had all the appearance, but none of the class. Shilian sighed. Qirong took Geze away. Who knows whether the poor child has been abandoned or eaten? And Windmaster, who knows whether it was Blackwater who took him away? I pray they're both safe. Then he asked, What about your ghost city? Won't anyone stir up trouble there in the meantime? I locked up Ghost City when I left and leaked false information regarding my whereabouts, Hua Cheng replied. Even if anyone tries to start trouble, they won't be too hard on that rabble when they don't find me there. But I'm sure there are plenty of eyes watching that place right now. Hua Cheng couldn't return to Ghost City, and Shilian couldn't take him to the heavens lest they be exposed by a heavenly official. This was why the two were frolicking aimlessly in the mortal realm's crowds without a destination in mind. Shilian knitted his brows. You leaked false information, but Lingwen leaked real information. I still don't understand how she managed to see through your Longying disguise. What I don't understand is something else, Hua Cheng said. What? Shilian asked. It's regarding that foul cultivator, Heaven's Eye. I've toyed with him a couple times. His skills aren't bad, Hua Cheng said. Yes, that's true, Shilian agreed. He's got talent and puts in the effort. Right. So why would he say that Gege's lips are covered in ghost chi? Hua Cheng questioned. Shilian's hands clenched, but he quickly loosened his grip when he remembered he was still holding hands with Hua Cheng. Hua Cheng pressed him on the subject, his voice grim. Gege, don't blow me off with words you've used to placate those idiots. Tell me what I did to you that night. It's not what you did to me, it's more like what I did to you, Shilian thought. Just then his eyes lit up. Wait, San Lang, look over there. Gege? Hua Cheng questioned. However, Shilian had already pulled him into a large and rather luxurious store. The store owners The store's owner stood at the counter and looked the two of them up and down. A cultivator and a layman made for a curious combination. "What can I do for you, Dao Zhang?" the owner asked. Shilian lifted Hua Cheng for the owner to see and smiled. "It's not for me, it's for him." Hua Cheng tilted his head. An incensed time later, Hua Cheng emerged from the back of the store. Lang Ying's clothes were suited for a 15 or 16-year-old and no longer fit the current Hua Cheng, so Shilian picked out a new outfit especially for him. Shilian's eyes lit up the moment he came into view. What a dear little young master, with skin as white as snow, dressed in a robe as red as maple and fire, and a pair of deer leather boots decorated with silver chains. Hua Cheng looked both handsome and spirited. His raven locks were loose. He'd previously only had a single thin braid next to his right cheek, but Shilian couldn't help braiding another one on his left to match. It made him look even more sprightly. What was really too much, however, was his expression. His eyes were vivacious and bright, his air calm and steady. He truly looked like a little grown-up, and nothing like a child. Such a contrast made it hard to look away. The ladies shopping in the store were all stunned, and they gathered around and clutched their hearts and cried, oh my," non-stop in appreciation. Hua Cheng languidly strolled over to Shilian, who clapped lightly. "Just as I thought. Red suits San Lang best." Hua Cheng helplessly tugged at the little braid on his left. "As long as Gaga is happy," he grumbled. Shilian lowered his hand to put an arm around Hua Cheng's shoulders and smiled as they went to the front to pay. Hua Cheng's outfit wasn't cheap. Shilian normally didn't have much money to spare, so he usually wouldn't have entered such a fancy store. However, he had saved up a small fortune for renovating the shrine, and now that there was nothing left to renovate, he could buy Hua Cheng some new clothes before worrying about anything else. As he was counting out his coins one by one, Hua Cheng squeezed in and slapped a piece of gold foil on the counter with a resounding wham. Shilian commented, ... Likewise, the owner commented, ... Furthermore, the ladies also commented, ... Keep the change, Hua Cheng said. Gaga, come on, let's go. He tugged at the corner of Shilian's sleeve and strolled outside the store with his hands clasped behind him. Shilian smiled and started to walk after him, but he was surprised when Hua Cheng backtracked right into his arms as he came back inside. Shilian held him steady by the shoulders. "What's wrong?" He looked up and saw a familiar figure in the flowing crowd outside, and his heart lurched as well. Coincidentally, the store owner asked, "Would you two like to purchase anything else?" Shilian raised his hand. "Yes, please. Bring me that robe." That's the end of the chapter. But there's a cute little picture of him as a little boy.
Aww.
His little fancy outfit. Shilian's like playing dress up with him.
Yeah. Let me see. He's so cute.
He's so cute. He hates
So small.
He hates being small. He's like, I have to be big and strong.
But he's so cute.
He's like, I have to be emotionally vulnerable, and I don't want to be.
Dude. I love him.
I also love him.